Welcome back to Where is the Money? So the money is not with the employees. It's not with the labor force, apparently. They trying to get rid of all the people to replace them only with AI. At first they sell it to say, hey, we're trying to help productivity. Now they're coming out to say how they really feel, which is, we don't need you anymore. AI is doing well for us.
Bumble is firing 30% of their workforce. Dropbox fired 20% last year. IBM cut 9,000 jobs. JP Morgan and Chase is expecting to cut 10%. Microsoft cut 15,000 jobs. And Business Insider is cutting 21%. All to adopt AI into their companies. The Ford CEO, Jim Farley, says AI is going to cut white-collar jobs in half. Anthropic's CEO says unemployment could spike to 20%. We are living in a time in the US where the president wants everyone to work to earn things like healthcare, education, and food, while we are actively on the precipice of most people not having to work. Amazon just deployed their 1 millionth robot in a fulfillment center. Automation can be good, so long as we also include universal healthcare and universal basic income. Because otherwise, where is the money going? How do people buy things if robots do the jobs? As much as a billionaire's greed is insatiable, they quite literally cannot have it all. Because like Monopoly and the entire point of the game, when you own everything, you own nothing. The game is over. Nothing has value anymore.
So it's something called the Great AI Restructuring that's taking place, where we're seeing a lot of the tech sector moving this direction, where they're outsourcing a lot of the work and they're blaming it on AI, whether they're outsourcing it to AI or they're outsourcing it to third parties. I think it was Intel that laid off the last thousands of people and then hired in a bunch of H-1B visa people for cheap labor, and stock went up. They're good, I guess, without the people. Not good for the people, obviously, but that's how these companies are looking at it. Now, this nice guy helps us understand a little bit more of the internal workings of these conversations at the executive level. How do they come up with these decisions? Is it purely efficiency? Is it purely cost related? Is there any consideration of the employee, longevity with the company, and performance? Is that a part of the equation? Or is it just purely cost and efficiency? Nothing else matters. So this guy helps us understand a little bit more of those conversations.
Okay, at the risk of sounding very naive, can someone please tell me why when a company has a financial issue, at the first sign of a financial issue, it doesn't even have to be a serious financial issue. In my 20 plus years experience, the first and only thing in the budget lines that people look at is payroll and benefits. Now, I know that payroll and benefits are probably the highest ticket items in the budget for most companies. I am totally aware of that. I'm aware of how much benefits cost. And of course, depending on the size of the company, whether it's huge, Fortune 500 or mid-size or small, payroll will be more or less. And there are many other budget lines to look at. We can go down a list. There's lots and lots of budget line items to look at to cut costs. But the very first thing, and the only things many times in my experience that's been looked at, has been payroll, which means layoffs, which means, quote, restructuring. And I'm not saying, please don't get it wrong, that there isn't a time when companies have to lay people off or restructure. I understand that that does happen sometimes. But in my experience, it's always been the first thing, and many times the only thing. And I've been in rooms where I'm the only one saying, hey, can we look at how much we're spending on our legal bills? Hey, can we look at how much we're spending on marketing? Hey, can we look at how much we're spending on, now, look, you need to spend money on marketing to get clients. You need to spend money on legal bills to defend your company. I understand. These are all things that may or may not be able to be cut. However, oftentimes, other budget line items do not have someone's keen eye on them to audit them. And many times they can be cut, oftentimes significantly, I've seen. So is it just because it's easy that executives look at payroll and benefits. It's just easy. Oh, we can just get rid of 100 people and this is how much we're going to save, instead of doing the harder work that in the long run, if they did that, would make the company more efficient, would save jobs, and would keep employees. I mean, and then you should tell employees you're doing it. Hey, we're in a bit of a financial crunch. We're going to cut some things, and we're going to try our best not to do layoffs. I'm just wondering. It seems like no one's doing that.
As you said, the biggest expense for a lot of companies is payroll. They can easily cut their budget and make their quarterly sales and reports by trimming a little bit off payroll. But these companies these days, especially in the tech sector, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, all of these companies, they're cutting more than a little bit. It may be a little bit in the grand scheme of their total employees, 5%, 3%, whatever, but that 5 to 3% could be anywhere from 8 to 10,000. So it's a big impact on the labor force. You would think these companies would consider the worker in this equation, but that seems not to be the case. So some people are speculating like, hey, is AI really the reason? And do they really need to lay off these people? Some companies are doing well, doing fine with the workers. And due to the competitor trimming down fat, becoming quote unquote more efficient, they feel like they gotta be competitive and do the same. Why pay more if we don't need to? Companies are always trying to make money regardless of the expense. So it wouldn't be uncommon or unheard of for a company to repeat what the competitor is doing to stay competitive. So is this an upcoming trend that companies are laying off because of AI or blame it on AI? But is AI really the reason? Is they're cutting just to keep competitive, or is there another reason that they're blaming it on AI?
You cannot convince me that they are not offshoring jobs, white collar jobs, under the guise of AI inefficiency. Not only are they offshoring, but they're just increasing the workload of their current employees. To me right now, AI just seems to be like the latest buzzword that's getting investors excited. It's like major corporate CEOs have just banded together to create this narrative surrounding AI, and they want people to be concerned. But I genuinely think it's so that people can be okay with the scraps that they give. Scraps in benefits, scraps in pay, and just make you work harder for less. And it's not to say that AI is not a threat, but it's not a threat to the extent at which they are saying that it is. And I think it's very strategic.
I really don't think people understand what is coming over the next 18 months, especially if you're working in corporate America. If that's you, you might want to save this video for later, and please share it with a friend who's working in corporate. We are seeing what they are calling the great restructuring. And essentially, it is consolidation of people and humans within an organization as they blend with technology. It basically means that companies are looking to get rid of irrelevant job titles, job roles. They're looking to get rid of these massive teams that don't get anything accomplished for 3 or 4 years. I've spoken to so many people who have been laid off over the last 2 to 3 years, and I've noticed something. The bigger the company they are at, the less impact they actually have, which makes their resume really, really hard to work. If you're in a role like that, it's really hard to define the value that you're bringing to the company you're working at. And it also means you are primed to be consolidated. You see, companies are making decisions of how they blend humans with AI and technology. They are trying to get as much as they can done with the least amount of people possible.
It's not looking good for the working class, the middle class, because these people with these jobs, especially the tech jobs, they were making 6 figures or better. And now they went from 6 figures to nothing. They have houses on it, mortgages on it, car expenses, insurance, every bill everybody else has on that kind of money. To suddenly get laid off in this current job market is a tough adjustment. So what do you think? Is AI really the reason? Does it even matter? Should people be concerned about, keeping a job or a career at all? Because there's a lot of people with lots of degrees, lots of experience in their field, still struggling to get a job and stay employed in this market. So what do you guys make of this? Put your comments below. Let's talk about it. This is Where is the Money? Talk to you soon.